All right, everybody, welcome to the show. We're live. Welcome to the Awake and Alive podcast. I have a very special guest with us today, Kirsten Little Tank Tulloch, all the way from the Shetland Islands, the far, far north of Scotland. Really in the middle of a frozen cold ocean is where she lives. So we're very excited to have her. Guys, if you haven't been out to the website recently, please check it out. We have so much going on at IamAwakeandAlive.com. New articles popping up. We're getting better writers every day as we expand and we get these other coaches writing for us. Our podcast guests have been sensational lately. We've really been on a tear with great guests. I have no doubt that today is going to be anything less than spectacular with Kirsten. Going to be just a lot of fun. And if you're on the website, make sure you go and get your latest edition of MadFit magazine. Use the code MADFIT, all caps, MADFIT, the number 10, and get 10% off that. Unbelievable resource for unconventional knowledge and information. Without further ado, I want to welcome to the show. Guys, be easy on her. It's her first podcast, but I know she's going to kill it. Kirsten Little Tank Tulloch. She is a super mom. She is a power lifter. She's a bodybuilder. And in my opinion, an up-and-coming star in the unconventional world. That's why we wanted to get her on the show. And we're really excited to have her. And she does some training out there with she probably trains the entire population because where she lives. Anyway, I'm a little bit of a geography nerd, and I love my Scottish roots, so I'm excited to welcome a Scotsman. Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Well, that was an introduction and a half. That's probably the best one I think I've ever had in my 38 years on this planet. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So listen, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the background, and then we'll get into all kinds of specific questions and have a lot of fun. But
Cool.
let's hear your story.
Well, my background initially was in bodybuilding. I was a competitive bodybuilder for years. I mean, I started training at the age of 16, and my first bodybuilding show was when I was 17, and then I started winning at the age of 19, and I competed for non-stop for like 4 years. In Scotland at the time, we used to have seasons. We had like an early season and a late season, and the early season the shows would always coincide with the British Championships, and the late season they would always coincide with the NABA Universe. That was the way it worked. And this was like in the mid to late 90s, and there was an awful lot of bodybuilding shows in Scotland at the time, and I pretty much did them all. And me and some of my friends, we were all the same. It's like we just did the circuit, and that was what we did. And it was an ongoing journey. And I just adored bodybuilding. And I started off in figure. I did very, very well in figure. I made it to international level. I made it to the NABA World Championships when I was 19. I also made it to the British finals when I was 19. I did a lot of stuff. And then I got to the stage where I got too big for figure. You know, my muscle mass was just too much, and I started getting marked down for that. And then I switched over to the physique class, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but in NABA at the time, figure was very much feminine muscle. It's not the kind of classes that you see now where the figure girls are a little bit bigger. Back then it was very much streamlined feminine muscle. And then you had physique, where you were essentially judged the same as the men. You know, you were judged on muscularity, hardness, symmetry, condition. And I moved over to that class, and I trained as a physique athlete for a number of years. And then when I lived overseas, as in New Zealand, I competed in the NABA physique class over there and just blitzed it. I went in and I just walked it, and I ended up getting a universe invitation off of my physique win there, and that was an awesome feeling. It was great. So from like the age of 16 to 30, I was a bodybuilder, and then that changed when I had children. I had my daughter when I was 30, and I decided I didn't want to compete anymore, because when I compete, I'm full-on tunnel visioned. It's like anyone out there who's familiar with Arnold Schwarzenegger and his whole ethos and the way he was when he trained, you know, where you are focused and tunnel visioned and nothing disrupts you. That was me. That was what I did, and that was why I won, and that was why I was successful. And I realized that as a parent, I couldn't give that level of commitment anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can, but it wasn't right for me. It's like, if I'm going to do something, I do it right, or I don't bother at all. So I had to find something else that I could do and excel at, but that wouldn't detract from my responsibilities of being a parent. And that was when I kind of discovered unconventional training, specifically kettlebell training. So I was literally in the gym one day and I saw a couple of kettlebells sitting in the corner of the gym, and I didn't know what they were. I'd honestly never seen them before. And clearly nobody else in the gym had bothered either, because they were covered in dust. Clearly no one had used them. So I went over and I looked
They
at
do
these
look
things.
foreign at first.
Sorry?
They do look foreign at first.
Yeah, they do. So I looked at them and I'm like, what is this? So I did what we all do these days, and I Googled it and I discovered that they were kettlebells. And then I thought, okay, what am I going to do next? Got onto Facebook, discovered people in Scotland who were teaching kettlebell workshops, discovered a guy who became a friend who runs Kettlebell Scotland, and went and did his K1 and K2 introductory workshops and just loved it. And this guy at the time was affiliated with the IKFF, you know, Steve Cotter. And
Steve Cotter's been on our show.
Yeah, I know. And well, so this guy said to me, he said, "Oh, you know, you're pretty good, Kirsten. I think you should do, you know, certification. Have you thought about doing CKT1?" And I'm like, well, no, but I'll look into it. So I looked into the IKFF, saw Steve Cotter and the way he moved, and I thought, shit, that's incredible. I want to do that. You know, like I watched him doing, you know, pistol squats and crazy stuff that I'd never seen people doing before, because I was a bodybuilder. You know, I knew how to squat and I know how to deadlift and I can press. But when it comes to unconventional stuff, this was new to me. And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. So I went and did CKT1 and did very, very well. And 6 months later, I did CKT level 2. And at the time, I think I was the highest skilled female in Scotland, because that was when the IKFF were just really becoming established in the UK. They didn't have the number of CKTs, which is certified kettlebell trainers, that they do now. So I was kind of, I guess, maybe a bit of an anomaly at the time, because most of the people that went to these certs were male. There were some women, but most of them were from England. And then you've got little old me that's travelled all the way from the Shetland Islands. And just loved it. And it's just been an ongoing journey. I mean, after I certified under the IKFF, I went back to live in New Zealand. I had my own gym there. I did a CrossFit certification. I then became kind of weaved in with Steve Maxwell. He's someone who I've followed for many years. So when I had my own facility over there, I felt compelled to invite him to teach. And he said yes. And so I hosted him for his very first New Zealand visit. So that was a real honor.
That's cool. Yeah, Steve's a good guy. We had him on the show as well, and then he's actually stateside now for a brief period of time. So we're looking to have him back on the show.
Oh, he's so knowledgeable, and he's just the kind of guy. He's full of stories, you know, and you never tire of listening to his stories. He's always got something new to tell you. He's just had the most amazing life. And,
yeah, it's really cool.
A fantastic guy. And I've certified under him numerous times in kettlebells and also in the fundamentals of human movement. So I've ended up doing quite a lot, pretty much from when my daughter was born. Like I say, I'm 38 now, so the last 8 years has been a real evolution for me, because I spent so many years being essentially a one-trick pony. And don't get me wrong, I was good at it. I was really good at it. But, you know, there comes a time where you have to evolve and you have to adapt. You have to adapt. Otherwise, you know, where do you go? You know, because you can't keep going in the same direction all the time. There comes a point where something has to give or something has to change. So for me, that evolution came as soon as I had my first child, and I've never looked back. So that's kind of led me to where I am now.
It's interesting you how much you've accomplished. First off, that's just brilliant and amazing how much you've accomplished and how far you've come in 8 years. But really what I find interesting is, you know, of course, here bodybuilding is big everywhere, all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, if you're going to start in fitness or look for fitness or research in a fitness, before you even get to any unconventional type articles or even powerlifting type articles, if you were to just type in fitness, you would weed through dozens of bodybuilding topics
Oh
first,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's just how it is because of the popularity of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who you see on the magazines. That's the idea. That's the imagery of what fitness is. You see these
Yes,
people
yes.
on the day of show on a magazine cover,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you and I both know is actually probably the most unhealthy state a human being could be in,
Oh yeah,
when that picture's
without a
being
doubt.
taken. But that's what this imagery is and everything, and that's why people pursue it. That being said, naturally, when you go to first pick up a weight, myself included, I'm 15 years old. My dad had been working out his whole life, so he taught me a few things. But it's like, all right, time to go to the gym, and what's the goal? To get big, right? To
Yeah,
attract the
yeah,
females. And so
yeah.
you start it is a cookie cutting industry where you start bodybuilding, and I very few people that I know from my generation um, started anything differently. Now, I do think that our kids, yours, mine, our generation, that generation coming up, they've got more options. There's more access to unconventional. You can start on a kettlebell as a kid because your
Yeah.
dad was doing it, but my dad didn't know what one was. And I saw that your grandfather was a pioneer in
Yes, he
fitness.
was. Yeah.
And that was
It's
a great picture, but it was a
it's
back squat, right? Which we
it's
all
re-
we
it's
all know what it
really
is.
it's really interesting because my reasons for starting training were quite different to a lot of people. I mean, I competed with women in the Federation NABA who started training when they were over 30. Once they had a couple of kids, they'd maybe been divorced. They were in a bad way in their life and they wanted something to give them a focus, something to cling on to kind of get out of this black hole that they were in. I started very, very young. I was always termed the baby of the group, and they all kind of looked after me. It was really very sweet because I went in so young. But my reasons for starting were because I was an obese teenager. I was someone who came in with no self-confidence, having been bullied at school for a long time. I mean from like age 8 until I left school at 16. And I had a real complex. It was I needed something to pull me out of this hole that I was in. And the gym saved me from that. I went to the gym with a view of getting rid of this person that I didn't like. You know,
Hmm.
I wanted to create something that I could be proud of. And and that was what I did. So I went to the gym when I was 16, and I remember saying to the lady who was working in the gym at the time, it was a gym in Aberdeen, where I'm from originally. That's in the northeast of Scotland. It was a gym called Credo, and this girl was working there, and she was just like a cookie cutter gym instructor. And she kind of looked at me. I'm this fat kid, and she said, "Oh, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, my grandfather was a champion bodybuilder." And she just kind of looked at me as if she was going to laugh. And I said, I want to learn to lift weights. I want to lift weights. And she said, "Well, really, based on where you're at right now, we would advise you to, cardio, light weights, da 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 da." And I said, no, no, I want to lift weights. I know I can do this. Show me how. So this lady gave me my very first program, and it was very simple. It was a full body plan. And she gave me this strict warning, you don't come in here any more than 3 times a week. You don't need to be in here more than 3 times a week. Well, I ended up going every day. I just defied her from the very beginning. And then I started befriending a lot of people in the gym, and a lot of people in the gym clearly could see that there was maybe just something a little bit different about me, that this kid's working hard. She's training. So people would start giving me little bits of advice. And there was a guy in the gym, and his name was Stan Main. And to this day, he is still a personal trainer in Aberdeen. He's an amazing man. And he came up to me one day and he said, "I'd really like to help you. I'm going to give you some tips. You've done so well here, and I run a bodybuilding show. I want you to come and see my show and just see what it's about, because I think it's something you would maybe like to do when, you know, in a while. So I went along and I watched this show, and it was in Aberdeen, and it was the Miss Granite City competition. Well, Mr. and Miss Granite City, and it was run under NABA Federation rules. And I watched it and I thought, God, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. I can't stand on a stage in a bikini. You're kidding. And the next thing I know, I'm doing it. It's like the year after I was up there doing it, and I was third out of four. I was so happy to be there. It's like I had faced my demons. I was standing up there in a bikini, in incredible shape, kind of brimming with confidence that I certainly wasn't born with, but that had been there, but I'd been able to unlock it. And I felt so proud. And that was like the very start of my journey. And from there it just snowballed. It's like the very first competition was just like, it was like a fix, you know. And I just kept going and going and going. And like I say, I think I've done about maybe 25 comps. I think it's about 25. I stopped counting when I got to 20, to be honest.
Right.
And I just loved it. So my reasons for starting were so different to a lot of other people. Like I say, a lot of men start training because they've maybe been bullied for being skinny, or they're just fed up.
I was
Yeah,
picked on because I was tiny. I've said it multiple times to put in perspective. When I finished my sophomore year of high school,
yeah.
okay, so I'm coming up on the age of 16. I was only 5'2" and 108 pounds.
Oh man.
That, you know, I was just a late bloomer. You know,
Yeah.
I did grow that summer. I came into my junior year close to 5'8", so I grew about 6 inches, but I still only weighed, you know, 112, 110 pounds. I was just a tall noodle. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I got picked on. I got in a lot of fights. I was, you know, tougher than a junkyard dog because I stood up for myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did have. There was always that little bit in the back of my head, like I'm not good enough because of my size, and so that was part of my reason to hit the weight room. And though the size didn't come till later in life in the weight room, but the strength came, and with the strength came the confidence. I knew that even
Hmm.
though I was 130 pounds, I was stronger than guys that were 260 pounds,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and a lot stronger than them. And those were guys that worked out. So yeah, I can't fully relate to where you're coming from, but I do understand a little bit of it. But I really want to highlight something you said that I thought was just so beautiful and touching the way you said it. You said you wanted to create something that you could be proud of.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is so much more personal than say I just wanted to change where I was at in life. Everybody says that. Everybody at
Hmm.
some point has been unhappy in their life. They've had a down spell. They've been in a trough. Everybody's had that. Now, some is longer than others. Some is more severe than others, right?
Yeah.
But most people just say, "Oh, I just want something to change," or "Oh, something's got to give," right? But
Hmm.
then you sat there, you took ownership and said, "I want to create," like an artist with a block of clay,
Oh yeah.
and you're not
Even
happy with the block of clay, and then you create
yeah.
this. You created a new Kirsten. You
I
reinvented
did.
yourself.
I did. I
And
think
then like you said, to be
even at a very young age, I knew that I could, because I grew up looking at these pictures of my grandfather. My grandfather. It's funny how these things work. You know, they often say that different traits can skip a generation, and my own dad doesn't train, you know, and his siblings don't train, but their dad, my grandfather, was a pioneer in Scottish strength sports, and back in the 1950s, he ran a very successful. They called it the Health and Strength Club in Aberdeen in Scotland, and he basically trained young guys who wanted to learn how to train, and he would teach them Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, and bodybuilding, because back in those days, men did all three. You didn't just choose one. They would, you know, do a season in one, and then a season in the other, and a season in the other. And I think it's only as time went on, maybe into your 60s and 70s, that people became more specific with the one that they were choosing to do, you know, as the stakes were starting to get higher in each field. But he did them all, and he inspired a lot of people. And I have a lot of pictures of him, like newspaper cutouts and black and white pictures and stuff of him doing different Olympic lifts, or him when he competed at the Mr. Scotland and stuff like that. And I grew up looking at these and thinking, wow. And I guess part of me knew that it was in me to be able to do that. Even at a very young age, when you look at your genetic heritage and you see what someone else has done, it's in your gut feeling, in your heart, you know that you've got it in you to do it as well. And I think that was what was really coming out in me that first time I went to the gym. It's like, even as a timid teenager, I made it very clear to that girl in the gym what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve, because I knew that I could. And it was, it was very, very personal. But you have to take ownership for your body. You know, there's way too many people these days are so quick to blame life, circumstances, someone else. Yes, for where they're at right now.
Somebody else's fault that you're out of shit, that you're overweight, and that you're unhappy with yourself. And our audience, those people that listen to the show, personal responsibility and ownership is a huge theme that we see time and time again on the show. And and just you're the author. You've got to take control of your life. And if you're unhappy and you don't want to be, and it's not just in fitness. If you hate your job, quit. Go get something else. Don't be miserable just because you're accepting the status quo. We're big in that, you know, the power of positive thought and speaking life into it and making it happen and taking charge.
Yeah, you have to take control of yourself and take responsibility for where you're at. And because until the time comes that you take responsibility for where you're at, nothing is ever going to change. And to like fast forward to now, I mean, I teach strength and conditioning group classes where I live. And, you know, it's predominantly women who come to my classes. So, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people, you know, several times a week, and everyone has a background story. Everyone has a reason for being there. And it's just really interesting to see the ones who do really well and the ones who drop off. And the thing that is always very common, the thread that always comes through, is that the ones who change are the ones who have decided enough is enough. You know, it's time to change. Whereas the people who drop off are the ones who are still making excuses, or basically just bullshitting themselves and everyone else, you know, that it's something else that's causing their issue. Oh, I have a thyroid problem. Oh, you know, oh, my job. Oh, I work long hours. Oh, I work night shift. Oh, I've got 4 kids. It's like, well, boo fucking who? We've all got stuff going on. You know, it's like, you know, these are your cards. Deal with it. You know.
I'm so busy. I get that one now a lot. I actually talked to the other day, and it's the self-martyrdom. I'm busier than you are. My life's more fair. That's crap. Everybody is busy. Yeah. Even people that aren't busy. I made this analogy. Think about it. Even people that aren't busy are busy doing stuff, filling their own time. Like, I have friends that don't have jobs. They fill it by watching TV. They don't. That's what they want to do, right? But they're busy doing that, and they would have issue if something came up that would interfere with that time. So everybody's busy in their own way. And then you got people who are entrepreneurs that have families and, you know, running businesses and taking care of the kids. You know, I thought I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad and run 2 businesses. And
so you know exactly what it's all about.
So I get it, but I've got time for myself. I got time for the kids. I've got time to prioritize my health. Sometimes it's not as much as others, but there's flow in life. And as long as you understand that and say, like, hey, this week was a little bit more chaotic. I need to get back in the gym, you know, and really, really get after it a little bit this next week. You have to understand that. And also, you know, allow yourself to allow a little bit of grace in your life to be like, hey, look, I didn't get, you know, 10 sessions in this week. Well, that's okay. You know, you're doing the other things. The rest
consistency is everything.
They're also good for you.
Consistency is everything. I mean, even if I always say to people, look, if you can just give 30 minutes 3 times a week, if you can do that every week, you will change. You know, you will see a difference in how you look and how you feel, how you move, how you function. But you must be consistent. So it's instilling it into people that, you know, consistency is everything. You can't just go flat out for a month and then stop for 3 months. It's not going to work that way. You have to start doing something that you can maintain. So, I mean, I always make a point of saying to people, look, I've done this for 23 years and I'm not bored yet. You know,
That's right.
it's
That's
like
right.
when you find something that pushes your buttons, that makes you feel good, you will keep doing it. It's not
That's
going to
right.
be an effort. You're just going to do it. It's just like brushing your teeth or getting up in the morning. You know, it's just something that you do.
Well,
And
and you get to a point where you look forward to it. I really,
yeah,
really look forward to my sessions, and I have for a long time. My own
yeah,
practices, I've really looked forward to a long time, and I'd say that as a coach, a lot of my students really look forward to coming in here and seeing me when they're scheduled to do it. Hey, real quick, those ladies that are saying they've got thyroid issues, referencing back, we just did an amazing podcast on Monday with Elle Russ. I posted it today. She's got an entire book out on hypothyroidism. She dealt with it herself, and she
that's really
she
interesting.
figured out how to beat it with
Mm-hmm.
proper nutrition. And she actually wrote a book, and in her words, it was the book she needed to read, but it wasn't available, so she went and wrote it. But
I must actually look at that because I've been hypothyroid since, oh damn, but 2006 was when it was diagnosed.
yep,
So I mean, I can completely relate
check it
to
out.
that.
Check out the podcast. It's on our
Yeah,
website. Share it on your page so those
yeah,
ladies that you train
I will.
can see it and hear it. Really, really amazing stuff. My only experience with thyroidism is knowing people that have had it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
she said a lot of things that made a ton of sense, and it was really, really cool stuff. So I wanted to, before we got too far away from that
Oh
statement,
no, please, I'm glad you mentioned that.
where
I will check
know,
that.
I think it's an excuse people can use, but here's your solution, here's your tools, here's your empowerment. Like, it's no
Absolutely.
longer an excuse. Like, we give you the tools, and that's what we're all about as coaches. Is we're giving the tools to make people have this wonderful change, and
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. And so you have women that come to your house, you train out of
Well,
your home, yes.
I personally train at home, but I train people here at we have like a public hall. I live in the Shetland Islands. And for those of you that don't know, the Shetland Islands is a group of 100 small islands in the very, very far north, as far north as you can go in the British Isles. We sit between the UK and Norway. And so where I am in Shetland is as close to Bergen in Norway as it is to Aberdeen in Scotland. We are basically a rock in the middle of the North Sea. And it's a population of about 22,000 here. And
I can't believe
everyone,
there's that many people there.
yeah, yeah. And so here, all over Shetland, we have lots of what you call public halls that serve the community, and people will run fitness classes out of them or have functions, whatever. And I teach my strength and conditioning classes out of the public hall close to my house. And I go along 3 times a week, and I have three separate groups that I teach. And yeah, that's where all my classes are run. We also have a little gym up here, but it's a small community run initiative for just the immediate community. And it's really small, but it serves the purpose. You know, we have a lifting platform and power cage and benches and stuff. But my own training personally, the majority of it is done at home. And most of my training these days is kettlebells and also my mace.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah.
you're in the mess. You found another love. Um,
Oh yeah.
so back to the Shetland Islands.
Yeah.
Because one, I love geography, and I love love the British Isles. And I will definitely get to um, the homeland of Scotland one day and see the land of my ancestry. It's a trip that
Scotland's
we've been
incredible.
talking for a while.
Yeah.
I'd like to get to a lot of those islands. I'd love to get to Shetland, the Hebrides, the
Yeah.
Isle of Skye. Just every picture I ever see of that is just like breathtaking. But
Yeah.
first off, how in the world are there 22,000 people there, and what do they do? What brought you to Shetland Islands? Because you were born in Aberdeen, and then you had a sweet gig
Yeah.
going to New Zealand, which is
Yeah.
also a beautiful place. And what took you to the Shetland Islands? Again, a rock in the North Atlantic.
A rock in
And,
the middle of the North Sea. Well,
and I don't think
my
people can realize it. I am very good at geography. I know exactly what she's talking about. It is literally in the middle of nowhere. There is
it
nothing
is.
around her,
No,
people.
there's nothing. There's
And the
nothing.
weather. Let's talk about the weather. How
It's
is it?
mental. It's mental. I
It's
mean, it's
that's
here, it's like if it gets to like 12 degrees Celsius, we call that summer. You know,
Right.
it's a really crazy place. You know, we just get some days you get nice, calm, settled weather, and you'll go outside and it's like, wow, this is like heaven. It's bliss.
Sure.
And then you'll get other times where you could just look out the window and you think, why the hell am I here? You know, um, but you know that's the chance you take when you live somewhere so remote. But why am I here? Well, my husband is from the Shetland Islands originally,
Gotcha.
and when we lived in New Zealand, and we had our daughter, and we decided we were going to come back to the UK, and the deal was, well, if we go back to the UK, we're going to go to Shetland because it is such a safe place for raising kids, and it is, and that was why I ended up here. So he got work here, and I was purely a stay-at-home mum for quite an extended period of time, and then I had my second child, and when he got to about 5 or 6 months old, I really got itchy feet. I needed to do something again. I missed teaching. I missed doing the thing that I love. You know, it wasn't enough for me just to do my own training. I had to try and do something to help others again. And it's kind of funny how it worked out. I put on social media, specifically Facebook, a simple status message. I said, is anyone in Shetland interested in doing strength and conditioning classes? Within about 30 minutes, I had about 50 people inbox me.
No
Yes,
kidding. That's amazing.
we wanted. And I was like, damn, I'm wanting something here. So I thought, okay, you know, because, you know, obviously I've got all my experience, you know, all my coaching experience. And I thought, right, I'll do something with this. So I put a format together, and, you know, like a circuit style format, and put it out there and said, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is when it will be. This is how much it costs. And I sold out the first block within 30 minutes. And I thought, damn, okay. So then I added on another class, and that sold out. And I ended up going to a wait list, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. You know, because you expect it when you go somewhere busier, like where I come from in Aberdeen, or if I was in Edinburgh or Glasgow or somewhere bigger. I really wasn't expecting that response uh, in a small place like Shetland, but it just went boom. It was huge, and I was in a waitlist scenario for quite some time. So I've been doing these classes now for 2 years, I think. Yeah, I think it's 2 years now, and it's a lot of fun. You know, the classes that I put together are based on all the years of experience that I have. So we'll do a combination of like body weight conditioning. I have battling ropes and slam balls, and, you know, obviously a lot of kettlebell work. You know, we do, you know, crazy stuff like the tire flipping. You know, we have a huge box that is low down to the floor, and we'll, you know, pull it in hand over hand with a big rope and then drive it back. And I'll load that box up to like 120 kilos. And these women are driving through it. The majority of people who come to me are female. And there's some strong women that come out of these islands, I'll tell you that. And
They're stronger
you know,
and tougher than everybody else on the planet already because they live on a rock in
that's
a
yeah.
stormy cold place.
Yeah, you've got to be tough to handle this, I'm telling you. Um, but it's, yeah, the classes that I run, they're random, they're fun, but they're random in a planned fashion, and that's something that I'm very big on. I don't do the whole, you know, just make it random. You know, the kind of whole CrossFit mentality that we see at the moment, where it's just
Right.
random for the sake of being random. That's not me. I've been very heavily influenced by Steve Maxwell, and like I say, he taught me the fundamentals of human movement. And there's 5 pillars of human movement, and I base all of my classes on those 5 pillars. So when I'm planning out a class, I have a tick list, and everything meets the requirements for what I set out to do. So my clients come into class, and to them it's just fun and random and crazy. But I know that it's specific, and I know that they are leaving having done a very, very effective workout. So for me as a coach, that makes me feel very good. You know, it's not just, you know, some Mickey Mouse, you know, circuit that's been chucked together in 10 minutes. I put quite a lot of thought into that. And I've become quite good at it because I've done it for such a long time. It doesn't take me too long to come up with different sessions. but I make up a new class before every single session. You know, nothing is done twice exactly the same. It's always blended and mixed, and I get a lot of pleasure out of doing that, and it extends my skills because I'm always aiming to improve and be better. And it's a great feeling, you know, when you get the feedback from people. You know, I'll get private messages from people saying, you know, I didn't think I could flip a tire, and now I know I can. It feels so great, you know. Or I was so scared before I came to class, but now I'm not. I love it. I look forward to it, and that really elevates your spirits. You know, it makes you feel very good, and then it gives you that drive to keep on doing it and keep improving, and just try and reach more and more people, because there are so many people out there who need something positive in their life. And if coming to my class once or twice a week gives them that focus, well, great. I've done a good thing, and I can kind of go to bed feeling happy. So yeah, it's
Well, and my coaching style is very, very similar. And I think another thing from the coaching aspect is your own sort of sanity and energy is, by keeping it different and keeping it fun for the class rather than just very regimented and totally quantitative. Like it's got to be X
yeah,
number of sets, X number of reps.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
same old every day.
yeah.
And I know you can really appreciate this coming from a bodybuilding background because that's much more regimented.
It
It's a
really
lot.
is.
It's a lot more of the same. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
is a lot of the same stuff over. You will do the same workout many, 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 many times.
Oh yeah,
And this
yeah,
is again this sort of unconventional idea is like, hey, we're gonna do this, this, and this, but every time, even though the exercises and the modalities are different, we're still covering a push, a pull, a rotation,
bingo.
a carry,
Yes,
a locomotion. Um, we
yep,
sort of are engaging all of these things and these principles, and that's what makes it fun. It makes it fun for the coach. Like I get to sit up there and have laughs and stuff. And I remember when I was a trainer working in a gym, with this mindset of it's here we're going to do 3x12 tricep extension with 3x12 bicep curls because
yeah,
that's what we're doing today. And
yeah,
all my clients that are doing arms that day are going to do that same thing. It wore me out mentally. I was like,
yeah, yeah.
I didn't look forward to it, but now it's like, oh, we're gonna have some fun today, and we're gonna play some games, and
Absolutely.
you know,
It's really cool. I mean, the one thing in my class is that everyone seems to enjoy. I've probably got maybe one or two people that don't like it, but I have a huge tire, and we call him Troy. His name is Troy. He's a 120 kilo tractor tire. And whenever he comes out to play, you know, they know, oh, this is the Troy challenge. And basically the Troy challenge is how many times can you flip that bad boy in 40 seconds? And they all compete with each other. And I tell you, it's brilliant. And the energy in the room when people are flipping that tire and they're all shouting for each other, trying to G each other on, faster, faster, faster. And it's phenomenal. And it's, you know, the energy is electric. And people finish doing that, and it's like they've just climbed Mount Everest. You know, just the look on their face to know that they've done it and they've conquered it. Because if you've never done strength and conditioning work, and you walk into a room and you see that big ass tractor tire, you know, it can put fear into a lot of people, because it's like, how am I going to do that?
I know the feeling. Our
Yeah.
tire, our big tire is 448 and a little bit of
Yeah.
kilograms,
Yeah.
not pounds, kilograms.
Holy
Just
crap.
shy of 350 kilograms is my big tire. And as many times as I flipped it, it's still. I got to be in the right place mentally. I really do. There's sometimes I get up to it and it still intimidates because when I'm down to grab it, it's right under my chin. It's so
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
And when it's standing up on its side, like a tire would sit on a car, it's almost head height for me.
Yes.
And it's a funny story how I got that. My wife's stepfather, he used to work for a tire company, and his job was to go out in the swamps and these big logging trucks that would break down. He had a truck with a boom on it, and he would change these big tires. That was his job. He was a field guy.
Uh-huh.
And so I called him when I first got in this unconventional thing. I said, I see his name Eddie. I said, Eddie, can you give me a tire?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, what kind you want? I said, I don't know. I think something about 500-600 pounds would be reasonable for flipping. I'd done some
Yeah.
research. It seemed what for a guy my size and strength, what would be just sort of fun to kick around the yard. I forgot I asked him this. The next morning, he calls me before 7 a.m. He calls me. He goes, hey, where do you want this tire? I'm still asleep. I'm like, what tire? And he shows up with this in the back of a truck with this huge tire. I said, that's the biggest tire I've ever seen. It said 3 guys to get it on my truck. So I was like, well, what am I going to do with it? So I roll it off the back of his truck. It only takes one person to get it down, right? And I said,
Yeah.
oh, well, let me give it a shot. I have no idea how heavy this thing is. I get under this thing, and I give it everything I got, and I get it up, flip it over. I'm like, all right, this will work. So later I look up. I said, that thing's not 500 pounds. So later I look up the model number, right? I type it into the computer and look it up. 986 pounds is this tire that I thought was going to be 500 pound tire.
That is nuts.
So we'll pull out. I'm actually going to pull out this week if it's not pouring down rain, because you can't flip it in the rain. It's too slick to grab. But that's my my first tire story, and now it looks like I own a car. It looks like I own an auto body shop out behind the studio.
Brilliant.
I've got probably eight tires back there of all different sizes.
There's something very empowering about flipping a tire. It's just something so old school and rocky, and so many people, you know, it's like something that they look at it and they think, I can't do that. And then when they do it, the look on their face just kind of says it all, and you think, yeah, this is why we've taught them to do this. Because it's not just a case of what you've managed to do physically, it's the mental barrier that you've crossed to do it. You know, because so many people will look at that and just go, nah, I can't do that, and they'll just hand up and walk away.
You said it once already, the how much enjoyment there is as a coach to get people to do stuff that they never thought they could do. And sometimes it's not that they didn't think it. You as a coach, you have the privilege of getting people to do things that they didn't even they would never even consider in the first place. Not something that they say, oh, there's a tire. I've seen a tire be flipped before. I just never thought I could do it.
Yeah.
Right? But they're familiar with that.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to introduce them to something that they can't even think in their head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for me, a lot of times I might be a parkour element that I introduced to a student. Like, they've never thought of just flying over a box like a ninja, because their brain has never even seen it or really gone about it. So it's just such a cool privilege that we have in the position of coaching. You said something cool. You said there's something sort of old timey about the strength of flipping a tire. Now, I am no stranger to lifting stones, and one day you'll appreciate this. I actually do have a very specific goal in mind. I would like to take on the inverse stone one day.
Oh, geez, yeah. A lot of people want to do that.
A lot of people want to do it. I think that of the ancient stones and the famous ones, I think that's the one that I could probably handle.
Yeah.
I don't think the ditties are in my frame. I'm only 185, you know. So
don't write yourself out of that one. You know, never say never.
We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. They look. Let's just say they look pretty damn intimidating right now.
They are intimidating. They are intimidating.
The invert looks achievable right now, even though I'm not quite there with where I'm at. So there's something. You're right. There's this ancient tie to being really strong, and of course to being Scottish. I think there's something even more special because they sort of have this this almost like the birthright of heavy lifts. You know, they're picking up the stones, and then heavy athletics, the Highland game stuff. I've competed in a couple of those and really enjoy that sport.
I love Highland games. I love watching it. I've never done it.
Have you had a chance? You should try it sometime. It would be so welcome. It's a wonderful community. It really is.
You never know. I maybe will. It's like I'm the kind of person, I turn up when you least expect it. That's always what I used to say in bodybuilding as well. You know, people will be thinking, is she going to compete? Is she not? And then they wouldn't know until I turned up on the day, and they'd be like, shit, she's here.
That's funny.
She's back.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
But there is something to, and I think it doesn't necessarily have to be the tire where you get this old school vibe, and that's how people did it 40 years ago, because they didn't have machines and they just had a big junk tire there, or even going back thousands of years of lifting the ancient stones, and that this rite of passage and strength. To me, it goes beyond any sort of apparatus or tool or object. It's the when you say it's inherent and it's this connection to the ways of the old, is our ancestors were just strong, and we as people, as humans, evolved to be strong critters, and we got lost along the way. We've lost that time strength. So there's this, all of a sudden, this, like, when you do it, there's this fire that lets you, oh, that's what that's supposed to feel like. I am supposed to feel strong. I am supposed to feel like I can do this, and I can be able and capable of many great things. And and that's because you're a human being. That's why that's what that feeling is that you're now a functioning human being, because you're now getting strong and able to do stuff.
It's something that people have just lost touch with it. I don't know what the hell it is, with this, the kind of generation that we're in right now, but so many people have kind of accepted weakness. They've accepted ill health. They've accepted not feeling optimal, and they just take it. It's like, oh, that's just the way it is. I mean, I'm 38, and I coach people who are considerably younger than me, who have health issues that you wouldn't expect to see until someone is much, much older. And I find that really frightening. It's like, what is going on? People just need to start, kind of waking up and taking a look in a mirror and saying, right, this is my life. I'm going to do something here. But people are very passive. And, it's really interesting. You've either got people who are full on into taking care of themselves and will stop at nothing to be the best version of themselves that they can be. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who are just incredibly passive. And it's just like, oh, that's just the way it is. That's the way it was for my mum and dad. That's the way it is for me. And they're just kind of, it's like this train that keeps on running until someone decides enough is enough, and then they get off. But there's a real distinct difference between the people who are very physically fit or very strong and the ones who are not. Whereas, a long time ago, you may have seen people that kind of sat somewhere in the middle. They weren't exactly weak, they weren't exactly powerful, but they had a good kind of function. The divide seems to be getting bigger right now.
Well, I mean, you always had that sort of old man strength, right? You like your grandpa. He never worked out, but he was strong because he did some stuff. I found this very interesting from a cultural standpoint, that even at the Shetland Islands, which I would imagine people being fairly tough there and capable, that you're mentioning these younger health problems, because I do know, obviously, here in the United States, obesity is an epidemic. Diabetes diabetes is coming at a rate where it's going to be the majority before we know it.
It's really sad.
And I know that the England has an obesity problem as well. And as far as other countries, I'm not sure where they all fall in line with it. But what seems to be very much a Western problem is now becoming a global problem. And I think that, you said that people just sort of accept it, right? And there's this mentality of, oh, well, this is just the way it is. Like, you're unhealthy because of what? Because of life? Because of your job? Because your parents weren't healthy? It's this acceptance. I saw somebody say something on Facebook the other day. It really, really bugged me. This guy was asking for help, and actually did. I personally reached out to him. I had met him briefly on a summer missions trip, and he had posted this thing about his spine and his back was just killing him after having a desk job for 6 years. So I reached out to him and actually got him on the phone and told him a couple things. But one person said something, and it drove me absolutely insane. It said, getting old sucks. And I'm like, this guy's my age. He's 32, 33, right?
Goodness me.
That's really not old.
No. That is young.
It is young. It is young. I agree 100%. What pissed me off about the statement is that, first off, he's not old. But secondly, it's that is such a cop-out for people to have ill health. And the problem is that they think 40, 50, 60 is getting old, right? So they
Yes.
said, I should start to have poor health because I've aged, because I've been on the planet for 42 years. I should start to
Yeah.
have problems because that's just the way it is. When in actuality, it's totally false. And if you go to one
Yeah.
of these longevity hotspots, where people live to be 90 and 100, they're
Oh yeah.
well, they eat well, they move well, they take care of
Yeah.
themselves, they have community, they have all these things that keep them well and healthy. Um, and they probably do spend more time in the sunshine. You guys don't get that luxury. That's fine.
Yeah.
Uh, but um,
It's
you know,
it's
it's
the
just always
whole it's the whole
it's always
mindset, you know.
right. It's a mindset. It's just this acceptance of, oh well, that's just how it is. Everybody's
Hmm.
unhealthy, and really, if
Hmm.
you go to a grocery store here in my town, you would think that everybody's going to die next Tuesday. That's the way I feel
Yes.
when I walk
Yes.
around shopping or running errands. I'm like,
Yeah.
these people are all going to die. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know why the funeral home doesn't have a line of other funerals waiting behind it, because everybody should be dead. But most of the people are sort of in this state of they're already dead, but they're on medicines that keep them alive.
They're existing. They're in a
So
state of
yeah, they exist.
existence. Yeah.
Right. They're
Yeah.
not really living.
Yeah.
That's what we want. We want people to be awake and alive. We want people to wake
Bingo.
up
Exactly.
from
Exactly.
this complacent, mediocre life, and we want them to have the fullest life of health and happiness and
Yeah.
whatever it is that brings them. Just we want people to have passion. And
Absolutely.
hey,
It's you also want people to know, that, everyone has a background story. And nobody who is good at anything in this game, whether it be strength and conditioning or any other endeavor in life, has got there without work. And we've all had stuff going on in our lives. It's like I there was I don't know if you've seen it, you probably have, but my friend Taco Fleur from cavemantraining.com put an article about me on his site, where I talked openly about my battles with depression when my daughter was only 2. And I put that in the article on purpose because I wanted people to know that we all have, darkness that we've faced and dealt with, and we've all come through it. And just because you have different things to deal with and face is not an excuse not to take care of yourself. If anything, it's even more of a reason to take care of yourself. It's not the reason that you can't, it's the reason that you should. So when Taco asked me to answer these questions, I felt compelled to write about my experience with depression, and I hope that by doing so, other people will maybe relate to some of what I said, and realize that they can dig themselves out of that hole if they choose to do so. They can either stay in it, as so many people do, or they can choose to stand up and get out of it. And there's always a way forward. But yeah, I'm always quite open with people. When I write about things like that regarding mindset or mental health, I always say, look, this is the best thing you will ever do for yourself, because training will help to clear your head, and it'll help you to deal with the shit that you have to deal with. It doesn't get rid of the problems, but it makes it easier to deal with, and that in itself is gold.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is. It
And it's
really
easy.
is.
Life in general is easier if you're in better health.
It
Um,
really is.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if you're stronger, I always ask people, when is it a disadvantage to be stronger than you are right now? It's not. You can
It's
always
not. No.
you're always increasing your advantage in life if you're a little bit stronger than you are, and increasing that.
Absolutely.
When is it disadvantage to move better than you have, to move pain free? It's not. So I always ask these
Exactly.
questions. Um, but listen, I feel like we could keep going on, but we're right here at a really good stopping point, very natural stopping point to the show. Um, we are that was awesome. This was this crazy show where I knew this was gonna happen. Listen, Kirsten, you're a rising star in this,
Thank you.
and I know you got a lot of awesome positive things going on. It is because of your hard work, but more than that, you've got a little X factor to you of you've got something that draws people in, and I think that's special. So hold on to that, and you're gonna go real far in this beyond Shetland Islands. You're gonna go real far. with this stuff. So we're happy to have you on there. I felt like this show just sort of tied in like at least half a dozen of the previous 21 episodes. So that was really cool that we just had all these themes intertwining and all these references, and it was just a really, really cool way to bring some stuff together. I would love at some point, if I ever make it out of the way, I'd love to come out there and do some stuff with you guys. That'd be a lot of fun.
You're welcome anytime.
I appreciate that.
Always welcome.
So listen, real quick, for our visitors and our listeners, we want you as a guest to have the opportunity to say, listen, name any workshops you got coming up, or tell people where they can find you on social media, your YouTube channel, website, whatever it is. Give a shout out to yourself and plug some stuff for us, please.
Well, my Facebook, if anyone is interested in finding me on Facebook, I have 2 pages. I have a training page, which is pretty much for my classes, and I can be found under Little Tank Training. And then there's my personal page, and my name is just Kirsten Tulloch. And if there's any other person with that name, just look for the one with the blue hair, and that will be me.
That'll work. That's a good giveaway.
I also have a YouTube channel. Again, if people search for me, look for Little Tank, and the one with the blue hair, that's me. I'm on Instagram under Little Tank. I'm on Twitter under Kirsten Tulloch 1. But most of my life is probably spent on Facebook, to be honest. That is where the majority of people find me. And I get asked questions on there a lot, and I post a lot of video tutorials there as well, that, you know, quite a few people find very helpful, and they seem to get shared quite well. So that's where a lot of my time is spent. So yeah,
I did
Facebook
your
is
swings last week.
Did you? How did you get on?
I liked it. I had the heaviest pair that I have.
Yeah.
I've got some heavier singles, but the heaviest pair I have is only 24 kilo. But
yeah,
I got a little rhythm with it with the 16 kilos.
Yeah.
First, decided that it needed to be a little bit snappier. In your demonstration, it had a really quick snap at the top.
Yes. Yeah.
I was able to control the range of motion to be a shorter range. And stop it on the back.
Yeah.
And then so listen, I was on my second or third step. I was like, oh, I need to turn the hands out, because I was holding a neutral grip instead of.
So you want your palms facing back. Yeah. Yeah.
So I did that on the last one, and that was different. It is a very narrow stance, very, very weird stance to adjust to, but I'm gonna work with it quite a bit.
It takes a bit of getting used to, but I mean, it will
quite a bit more.
Improve your deadlift. Oh, immensely. I kid you not. It's that good. That move is excellent. If you do that in combination with deadlifts on deadlift day, or if you're someone who lifts stones, do that before you lift your heaviest stones, it will make a difference, because it fires up your central nervous system. So for anyone that doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, that's a clip that I posted to Facebook. I think it was last week.
Do you have that clip on in a YouTube format?
Believe it or not, I don't. I did that one to Facebook Live. I seem to be kind of into Facebook Live at the moment. It's a good way to post quite extended clips, because Facebook can be quite challenging to upload longer clips to, whereas Live allows you to do it. So I've been using that quite a lot lately.
Trust me, I know.
But I have a lot of clips online. I mean, a lot. I mean, I looked at how many I'd made the other day, and I was even surprised myself. I was like, damn, I didn't realize I'd made that many.
It's part of the reason why I found you and how you're on the show now. So keep doing what you're doing. Listen, I've got a personal favor before we sign off here. I have 2 sons, right? Ronan is a strong Irish name. Lachlan, my youngest, is a strong Scottish name. Can you say their names with your beautiful accent for me, please?
Is it Ronan and Lachlan? Is it L-A or L-O?
L-A.
L-A, Lachlan.
Beautiful.
So
Love it.
Yeah, Ronan and Lachlan.
That's the way they were meant to say. I say it with my southern accent, and it doesn't sound the same. So anyway, Kirsten, thank you so much for staying on, or for hanging out with us today and spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Listeners, thanks as always for tuning into the Awake and Alive podcast. If you want to check out any of the previous shows that we mentioned, please just go out to the website, IamAwakeandAlive.com, and go to the podcast section. We did reference several shows during this show today. And that's it. Everybody have a great week. Thanks.